All right, Dave, what would you say your golden rules for longevity are? Whether they're do this or don't do that.
Okay. The first thing is don't die. And in my book on longevity, which is called Superhuman, and this is one of the preeminent books in the last few years that build out these frameworks, what's going to kill you? Cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, or diabetes, which is a cause of the other three. So if you avoid those four big killers, you've made a really big difference in whether you're likely to live to 85.
So after today's video, our sponsor is Seed. I put a link down below for 25% off their daily synbiotic. So it's a probiotic and a prebiotic in one. So it has a really unique delivery system. So I am a fan of probiotics when you're making a change to like your diet or a lifestyle, because it can kind of help remodel that gut microbiome to help you make that shift a little bit sooner. Now, full disclaimer, they're a sponsor on this channel. That's how this channel works. It's how we're able to create amazing content. But my promise is that I only recommend products that I personally have used or currently use. So Seed down below, that is a 25% off discount link, again, for their daily synbiotic. I would probably guess that you'd notice a difference within about a week of taking it. Start noticing it digestively, you might start noticing it in other ways, but for me, I got more energy, I started sleeping better, things just seemed more regulated. So anyhow, that link down below, 25% off.
But real longevity people, and there's a lot of us out there, we're absolutely committed to extending human lifespan by decades and decades and decades. And if you see someone out there saying, there's no evidence we can ever extend human lifespan, so therefore you should just lift all the time, maybe they're not a longevity doctor. They're a wolf in sheep's clothing telling you that you can't do what humans are already doing today. So don't die, number one. And then number two, there's 7 pillars of aging. And we're not going to go into all of those on this video because you want to know what should you do. I'll just tell you, if you're looking at maintaining your car, what's more important, changing the tires or changing the oil?
Changing the tires.
Well, you kind of have to do both or it's not going to work, right?
Unless it's an old car, then you don't want to change the oil because it's kind of what's holding the engine together.
Right. And so it turns out there's different systems you maintain at different levels. So your body's that way. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you 7 things you can do that are going to help you on all of the different maintenance things you need to do. If you do the maintenance right, and you don't die of these things, you have a very, very good chance of living to, 85 to 100 in good health. And for some people, that's the goal. I just want to increase human health span. No, your job is not to increase human health span. That is a weasel wuss goal. Your goal is to double human lifespan with health span the entire time. That's what we are doing. And if you're not on board, you're going to look like that guy the year before the Wright brothers flew, who said it's impossible that people will ever fly. I actually have a video on Instagram of that guy and a couple others, along with Peter Attia, saying you can't extend human lifespan and aging clocks are not scientific. Dude, that's... So what are we going to do? Number one, you got to learn how to eat. So fuel your body right. And what does this mean? Animal protein is important. A plant-based diet is not going to extend your life. A peasant's diet doesn't extend your life. And you also need to get animal fats, fully saturated, some olive oil, but not too much, and no omega-6 processed oils whatsoever. These are very, very important if you want to live a long time. You might want to also, while you're at it, watch your oxalate consumption, which is spinach, kale, even raspberries and almonds. Because if you're going to live beyond 100 and you have microscopic razor sharp calcium crystals throughout your body because you've been eating a lot of these alleged health foods, it might inhibit your longevity if you're covered in calcium. At least it seems like it would to me. Number two, learn how to sleep. I've never liked sleep. It always felt like a waste of time. And it showed. So I realized I was bad at sleep. I've been tracking my sleep for 15 years. I used to sleep with this headset on. It was not Victoria's Secret approved, I'll put it that way. Now you can get a ring. I was also CTO and co-founder of the first company to measure heart rate from your wrist, where we could get heart rate variability and things like that. It was a company we sold to Intel years ago. So I got really into biomonitoring. And what I do now is I get 90 minutes of deep sleep and 90 minutes of REM sleep most nights in 6.5 hours of sleep. People who live the longest get 6.5 hours of sleep. This is 3 studies with very, very large populations prove that number. Healthy people need less sleep. If you need 9 or 10 hours of sleep, either you're doing 2 CrossFit workouts a day and you need extra recovery, or you're actually sick and you need to fix your nutrition. So know how to fuel your body, know how to sleep. The next one is know how to manage stress. Stress comes from 2 areas. Number 1 is emotional stress. You believe something that's not true. Other people are able to trigger you. You worry about stuff. And emotional stress, you can teach yourself either with logic or with biofeedback or neurofeedback, things like 40 years of Zen is how I do it, or heart rate variability training. You can fix the emotional stuff. But a huge amount of anxiety that people think is emotional is actually physical or physiological anxiety. It's caused by your body not having minerals. So you could take vitamin Dake, go to vitamindake.com and take the minerals 101 thing that's there, or you could figure out how to get enough minerals in your diet or get minerals in your Danger coffee. It comes with minerals in it. And yes, these are my companies. But the reason you need to get minerals is because a body that's mineral deficient is always stressed because it can't make the things it needs to make to keep you young. Don't eat enough calories, be stressed. And when your body's stressed, you're going to look for a story about why it's stressed, and it's clearly your mother-in-law or your partner, your spouse or your kids, or that politician or whatever other thing is out there. You think it's emotional, it's physical. Fix the body first. That's why I tell you eat first, sleep first, and then manage stress, because if you eat and sleep, half your stress is going to go away because your body works, and then deal with the emotional stuff. Learn how to meditate, learn how to breathe, and do whatever other practices you need to do. Number 4 is intentional or functional movement. This is really, really important, and it's underestimated. At Upgrade Labs, we're actually turning on a new AI technology that helps assess and change functional movement in people, because we're an AI longevity franchise that's opening around the country. Go to ownandupgradelabs.com if you want to figure out how to do this in your neighborhood. And what's going on with functional movement is if you don't use your feet and your knees and your ankles and your hips and your back and your arms the right way, as you age, what's going to happen is you're going to get injured. And the number 1 thing that will take you out is breaking a hip. If you ate right, you're not going to break a hip when you fall. If you learn functional movement, you're not going to fall. And when your body moves right, it actually changes your brain, because you don't want to get Alzheimer's and dementia. And this happens if your body gets decrepit, your brain gets decrepit. If your brain gets decrepit, your body gets decrepit. So these go together.
You said intentional movement or functional movement. What is intentional movement?
It means that you're moving on purpose, going for a walk.
Got it.
You're choosing to move, and you're moving functionally. Going for a walk when your body doesn't work might not be the right thing to do. So you could learn how to walk. I've spent probably 100+ hours, and I'm still working on it, because I grew up with duck feet, flat feet. I've had 3 knee surgeries, and my whole movement chain from my right big toe up to my left shoulder is jacked. So I'm constantly working on reinforcing that, because I know, because I'm lucky. Otherwise, I would just be in pain all the time and probably be doing this, and I wouldn't know why. So knowing how to move right, if we taught our kids, would be amazing. As an adult, you get a functional movement assessment and then work on the parts that are weak. Like you would know, like if one of your shoulders was out, you're like, this is a weak spot, I got to work on it. Why? It's probably because you don't even know that one of your stabilizer muscles is turned off. Why is it turned off? Because some system in your body decided you'd be safer if you didn't turn it on, and it didn't turn it on. The body's not that smart. It wants you to survive enough to have sex and have kids and then get out of the way. That's not your goal. So you better learn how to control every movement system. Pilates, yoga, or functional movement assessment.
Someone said something to me recently that made so much sense, just kind of regarding biomechanics, pain, whatever. And it was said, the victim screams louder than the criminal. And that was like, holy cow, that resonated, because you've got all these, radiculopathy when you have, your like a lower back issue or whatever. Mm-hmm. Perfect example, right? It's like, okay, you're going to have the pain might be in your left leg, but it's coming more so from L4, L5, or you're going to act a certain way. So, and it's the same kind of thing. It's some system in your body saying, okay, well, this is injured, so let's protect this by compensating here. And what I spent years doing incorrectly was saying, okay, well, I've got this injury. Let me try to get my body right. Or I've got this spinal deformity or this issue. Let me try to get my body right. When in reality, the body does a very good job if you give it the tools necessary to work with what it's got, right? You had flat feet.
Nailed it.
You're not gonna magically have an arch to your feet. Like, I mean, you might be able to improve it by strengthening some of the structural muscles around the, your tibialis and around your ankle, but you're not going to like completely fix that, right? You are, however, going to learn how to modify in a way that doesn't bring you into pain. The body is highly adaptable. And I think that's what gets people hung up on the whole functional piece. They're like, if I can't deadlift like that guy, then I just can never deadlift.
Yeah. Each body's unique. The amount of fasting you need, the amount of protein you need, the amount of sleep you need, the amount of cold therapy you need. It depends on the body and depends on the day. And it's the same with movement. Some of the more rigorous yoga things, I used to be really into yoga. I can still put my ankles behind my head and all that.
You do it right now?
Probably could. I mean, if you're into that. I've done it on magazine covers, man. Just, you don't want to see that magazine. No. They actually have people who are saying, I want to do that yoga pose in a certain way. Like Bikram was. He actually had a guy who broke a bone trying to do a pose. Like, because you're just pushing and pushing. I have to. No, if your hip socket isn't shaped that way, you're not going to do it. And there's no moral failing one way or the other. But it's, if you think you're moving right and your body's actually protecting you from something it doesn't need to protect you from, if you do that for 100 years, you're probably going to end up needing a new knee or hip or shoulder. And it's awesome. You can get a new one, but I'd rather regrow the one I have by moving in the correct way. So I just think this is underestimated. And that's why at Upgrade Labs, bringing in a functional movement with an AI assessment. So we're looking at the weight distribution when you move and all, doing it digitally so we can dial in where's the issue and we can fix it. It's magical, and there's nothing like working with a trainer who really knows what they're doing as well. There's also something else that is in my work at the very root of aging. It's at the root of autoimmunity. It's at the root of a lot of psychological conditions. It's mitochondrial function. So working on your mitochondrial health is profoundly important. And sometimes it's supplements. Quite often it's avoiding toxins. And this doesn't get enough press in longevity research. So avoiding things like heavy metals that inhibit mitochondria. Even some of the things like the type of trace minerals in danger coffee, you can use those to help escort toxic metals out of the body. Things like glutathione actually help you to detox mercury from the body, and just not absorbing them in the first place. I really don't rub receipts all over my body. They're full of BPA, but I also take supplements that help escort toxins out of the body. And I take things that enhance mitochondrial function, things like acetyl-L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10, the list goes on and on. But if your cells are better at making heat and electricity, that means they're also better at folding proteins and making hormones, which means you're going to live longer. And the final thing, if you want to live a long time, is not something that I spend a lot of time on in my book on longevity, but I talk about it in my big personal development book. And this is your social connections. And there are studies showing this. Now, you're going to live longer. The number of friends, good friends that you have when you're 50 is a huge predictor of how long you're going to live. And being in a community, being social, having trust, feeling safe, those are things that you can design into your life. And a lot of people, when they're younger, you get programmed by your family and your high school teachers and whatever else, to accept what you've got. And I don't care if it's your friends or your family. If they're lowering your quality of life, they don't have to be in your chosen family. We've all heard this quote that blood is thicker than water, right? And you know what that means?
Of course. Yeah. Your family is more important than other people. Yeah.
It's actually not the real quote. You know what the real quote is?
What?
The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. What the quote actually means is that the bond you have with your chosen family is stronger than the bond of your birth family. Because Your sister may try to steal one of your companies. Your brother Abel and Cain may do really bad things. So just because you're related to someone doesn't mean you didn't have an abusive parent. It doesn't mean that you have to talk to them. It doesn't mean you don't have to talk to them. But it does mean you need to forgive them. It doesn't mean you need to tell them you forgave them. It just means you need to stop letting the way you were raised by your caregivers, whether you're parents or teachers or coaches, that has to not have any effect on who you are as a human being. You're going to live to a very old age and be happy the whole time. You surround yourself with awesome human beings who you can trust, and you know who they are. And it doesn't matter if they're blood relatives. It doesn't matter if they're childhood friends. It matters if they're trustworthy. Do their words and their deeds match? And if you do that, what that does for your biological systems is so peace creating and expansiveness creating that your chances of living longer are so much bigger. That's why community is such a big aspect of what I do. That's why the Biohacking Conference, 3,000 people, it's in its 10th year, biohackingconference.com, end of May, beginning of June in Dallas. You go there to make friends with people who care about the same stuff you do. We have a singles event. People have gotten married there, not at the conference, but they've met and gotten married. I don't think we host weddings there yet. And people just make lifelong friendships because, oh my God, I'm here with people who care about the things I care about. It's community. And that's so important for longevity. And if you got haters in your community, kick them out.
It's funny because the word safety has come up in my vocabulary so much over the last 4 or 5 months when you talk about health and you talk about sleep. Like, right, it came when I had as Dr. John Deloney was on the channel, and it was just something like so simple and nonchalant that he had said to me about sleep. He was talking about paying off his house and how he slept better because he felt safe, right? And it was at that point when I was like, that's all we want. We want safety, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and it's like when you're having marital troubles or you're having issues with your friends or your loved ones, it comes right down to, do you feel safe? And are you questioning things? Do you not feel safe? When you're unhealthy, sure, there's physiological things that are happening, but you know deep down you're not safe, right? Mm-hmm. It's like when you look at someone that's dealing with all kinds of metabolic issues, they know it generally. I mean, there's obviously people that don't, but there's a lot of people that are, they know they're unhealthy. Does that also affect their sleep in addition to the physiological effects, right? They know they're unsafe and they're not protected, right? And it's like when I think about like, okay, well, what is actually affecting my sleep? It's like, okay, you think financial safety, you think relationship safety, your friends, your physical body, your means to make an income. And it got me thinking about even, the various regions of the world that have the longest life expectancy, blue zones or not.
You mean not blue zones?
It's like, even if you did look at the blue zones, okay, well, the biggest common denominator is the fact that they have community, right? Like, so it's forget everything else, forget the fact that there's other regions that live longer. The bottom line is you're a worldly traveler. You've been all over the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that the case in your opinion? I mean, do these people that seem to have large concentrations of centenarians, I mean, do they have that connection that a lot of us seem to be lacking?
A lot of them appear to have safety, at least in their family environments, but not all of them. In fact, you look at your extended family, and if you spend time in families with 10 kids, each of them has 10 kids, there's all kinds of drama in those families. That person did this, and like it's like living in a soap opera, unless it's a really unusual family, right? And then there's the redheaded stepchild, and there's drama all the time, right? And if you're in a small town, like the whole town's like that. But at least you kind of know. So it's the uncertainty. You're in a big city. You have no idea if that person across the street's a criminal, a thug, what's going on. So you kind of bring your energy field in. So it's knowing your environment, having comfort in your environment is different than a sense of safety. And in most of those environments for most of the last 100 years, if someone was breaking into your house, you would kill them. That's just what you do. And I know I live in Texas. That's still what we do. But in a lot of the country, like, oh no, I'm going to call 911. And well, the chances of them being able to get there in time are not that high. So safety is different for men and women on average. And safety for men is, can I kill someone who's going to harm my family? And can I do it without blinking? And if you're one of those people, you feel safe. You also feel safe if you know that I'm okay dying doing that, because that's safe. You're made peace with that. If you're not at peace with that, then you're not safe, right? So are you willing to give your life for the people you serve and protect? That's safe. If you're unwilling to give your life, it's not safe. So you have to make that choice, and you have to make it all the way down in your bones. And when you know it, and you know it without hesitation, there's no little part of you that says, but, it's a lot more peaceful. And safety for women comes differently. It comes from partnership. Yes, women can be safe. They can, there's women who can kick my ass and all that kind of stuff and who can outshoot me or whatever. But generally, men create bubbles of safety for women, and women can feel it, right? They know when they're around a safe man, and they know when they're around a dangerous man. And they know it without having to think about it. They know it in their bodies. This is women who are tuned into their bodies. Some have no clue. But this is how biology is generally wired. So if you want to live a long time and you're a man, or at least someone who sits in their masculine most of the time, which is usually men, what you would want to be able to do is you want to learn how to generate safety in and of yourself without needing anything from the environment around you. That's step one. Most people don't know how to feel safe. And then step two is, how do I expand the safety around me so that the people in my sphere can feel it? And if you can do those two things, you're in the safest situation of all. And then you have a community who's like, wow, I don't know why this is happening, but this is really, really good. And I believe this will be very controversial. And I'll get my kicked for this, but I'm okay with that. A portion of people who are attracted to MMA, like me, were bullied. And they're like, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be the biggest, strongest, most who can kill everyone in the room, because I never felt safe because of whatever happened to me when I was a kid. And I know that because I've talked to them. And also the number of big CEO entrepreneurs who were the same way. I'm not going to be a fighter, but I'm going to be rich enough, because if I just have enough money, I'll be free and then I'll be safe. Safety doesn't come from anything but your heart.
Looking a certain way. I mean, I know I seek validation that way. I mean, it's right. Like, you just okay, well, it's one thing I can control. It's a lot more common than you think, right?
There's validation from your looks. And for me, look, I used to weigh 300 pounds. Okay, I was triple ripple kind of a thing. I had a 46-inch waist. And I went to the gym 6 days a week, 90 minutes a day for 18 months on a low-fat, low-calorie diet, and I couldn't lose the weight. I had all the shame and all that kind of stuff. I've had my shirt off in Men's Health. I just did filming with Nightline the other week, and there's cameras and video cameras. I'm in the cold tub with my shirt off, and they're close. I have stretch marks, man. I also have ripped abs, and to lose the body shame was a really big thing. And so one of them is the looks, right? And then the other one is, am I strong enough? Yeah. And they're different vibes of safety. One is acceptance safety, because if you're rejected from the tribe, a tiger's gonna eat you. That's what your body believes. So being accepted equals safe. And then, can I handle anyone who looks like the guys who are mean to me in 6th grade? And if someone has both of those things as a man, usually bullying with women is a different psychological impact. It's oftentimes more about appearances and less about physical, I'm going to kick your ass kind of energy. But if you've had both of those traumas and you overreact to them, the only logical thing to do is to be absolutely ripped and able to kill anyone in the room. And I admire those skills. But if you're doing it for that reason versus because you want to save your city or something, yep, your motivations are suspect, and you might not be trustworthy to yourself.
Exactly.
And you want to do the inner healing. So now you're like, how do I be of service with what I just built?
Yeah, you can never actually feel safe. I mean, your safety is coming from something that arguably could be taken away from you at any minute. So you're really not safe.
Yeah. So if you're a safety generator, you can be safe no matter what's happening in the world around you. Even if they're going off, you can still be safe. Safety is a state. It has nothing to do with the world around you. It has to do with nervous system regulation.
I love that, man. I love that you ended on this one. Dave, where can everyone find you, man?
Go to daveasprey.com. And if you want the coffee that gives you the minerals so you can feel safe, because, well, who knows what you might do? It's called Danger Coffee, because there is no safety without being dangerous.
Right on, man. Thank you much.